Bright green environmentalists are people who believe that technological changes and reforms will make industrial civilization sustainable. And we wrote the book Bright Green Lies to refute this idea, to expose the lies. Technologies like solar panels, wind turbines, electric cars, geothermal energy, and so on, they're not good for the planet. In fact, they're extremely harmful to the planet. And as I record this video, I'm here at Thacker Pass where we're fighting a proposed lithium mine. Lithium demand is skyrocketing around the world because electric car batteries are lithium-ion batteries. And as solar and wind energy expand, they need more and more energy storage to smooth out the electrical supply for times when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. We wrote this book. Derrick Jensen, Lierre, Keith, and myself wrote this book because we've seen the environmental movement be hijacked by these ideas. Over the past several decades, almost all environmental groups no longer focus on protecting wild places and wild beings. They focus on so-called clean energy technologies. They focus on providing power to the industrial system. The problem is that no matter what the source of energy is, if what you're powering is industrial civilization, then you're powering the destruction of the planet. And we think that these people have basically got the variables wrong. Instead of trying to defend the living world, they're trying to defend an energy system that can continue to provide power to industrial civilization. In the face of peak oil and declining energy availability, it's no surprise that these technologies have become more and more popular. But they don't reflect environmentalism. They don't reflect a care for the living planet. They reflect a desire to maintain a privileged, highly consumptive, energy gluttonous way of life. Our goal in writing this book is to help people wake up to the reality of these issues. You know, like so many people, I was terrified of global warming when I was a kid. I'm still terrified of it. I would read about the felling of the rainforest in the Amazon. I've visited the Arctic and seen permafrost thawing under my feet. These are terrifying issues. And I think people's fear has been capitalized on. When people are afraid, they're easy to control, they're easy to mislead. They're less likely to think critically. And so our goal in writing this book is to help people go through that process. It took me 10 years to unravel those beliefs in solar panels and in electric cars and so on, and to come to understand the truth that we are fully dependent upon a living planet. And if we can't humbly live in reciprocity with the living world, then we are only going to destroy the ecological foundation of our own lives and the lives of other creatures on this planet. That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the conversion of a living world into dead commodities. And so our hope in writing this book, again, is that people can go through that process more quickly and easily than we can. Because many people out there who believe in these technologies, they have good values, but they don't have good information. Almost all of the information that's out there today promotes these green energy technologies as solutions to the problems that we face. There's not much information out there exposing the problems with these technologies, the harms that they cause, the supply chains that they emerge from, and the authoritarian social structures that they require and help to reinforce. So by writing this book, we're hoping that people can learn about these issues, and that our entire movement, the entire environmental movement, can pivot back to its roots, to its focus, which has always been, since the beginning, defending the land against industrial energy production, against urban sprawl, against species extinctions, against overfishing and overhunting, against all the assaults of this culture, including global warming. I think over the next 10 years, we're going to see the environmental movement split, even more so than it has already. I think the grassroots movement, indigenous peoples, many folks who truly prioritize the land, the health of the land, are going to be moving in a completely different direction than the mainstream climate movement, which will align itself with business interests, with corporations, with mainstream political parties, to produce as much green energy as possible, so-called green energy. And in so doing, will consign much of the natural world to destruction. Many of these last wild places, like here at Thacker Pass, like at the Yellow Pine Solar Project in Nevada, like on the traditional Sami herding grounds in Scandinavia that are threatened by wind turbine development, like the deep ocean areas where rare earth mining is proposed to supply the minerals for this green energy transition. I think the split in the environmental movement is going to grow wider. The gap is going to grow deeper, and it will become more and more clear that there's the environmental movement, and then there's the energy production movement. There's the people who love the land and seek to defend our kin, these other species and beings who we reside here with, the mountains, the rivers, the air, the forests. And then there are the people who will sacrifice those to produce more energy, to power their cars, their gadgets, their screens. I think that we're likely to see an increasingly chaotic world as global warming accelerates, extreme weather intensifies, more and more refugees crowd the world. Much of this is inevitable. Much of this is already in motion. There's momentum behind it, and no matter what we can do now, much of this is coming. But what I hope to see over the next 10 years is the resurgence of a truly powerful grassroots movement that rises up against the fossil fuel industry, that rises up against the mining industry, the renewable energy industry, the dam building industry, the logging industry. I hope to see the growth of a grassroots food relocalization movement that treats this like the war that it is and moves on with an urgency, with a wartime footing, to transform the way that we provide for ourselves as a society, as a world. I hope to see resistance movements that become increasingly effective, increasingly strategic and militant in pushing back by any means that are effective to stop the destruction of the planet, recognizing that this is a life and death struggle, that this is a time when we must stand with the living planet. Our lives depend on this. The lives of future generations depend on this. And so it's incredibly important that we act now to make that happen over the next 10 years. That we build the structures, the organizing units, the groups, the institutions, that we build power towards the future that we want to envision. I've heard it said that strategy is using what you have to get what you need in order to create the world that you want. So we need to be incredibly strategic at this time. I hope people will check out the book Bright Green Lies. I think it's worth a read. I think the ideas in it are very important. They're critical at this time because we're at a turning point in our society, turning point in our world. And we have a choice. Do we go further down the path towards a machine world, a machine culture? Or do we turn around and head in a different direction?